The latest.
The application?
Yeah. The latest. And
We are live.
Wonderful, thank you.
Don't say you will regret.
It's too late. I have any regret.
Nice to meet you.
Don.
Nice to meet you.
Oh, is that you?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Margaret.
Hi, Margaret. Okay. Anywhere you like. I do have a sign-in sheet as well. Love this, to be able to document everybody that's here.
Try that out over here after you guys are down here.
What's that?
Try that out.
Oh, the cable.
After we're down here.
They don't roll off the tongue very well.
That's what's there.
Oh, this
Works. Do you wanna share one? Don, do you want a microphone? Are you gonna be asking a question? I know, that one's not set up right now. This one is.
So my arrangements to work from home. Oh, it's 7:30, I log in, but this is my reason to get dressed and brush my hair and into the house.
Thank you for being
I
here.
wondered how you were saying that.
So we are streaming this on YouTube so that Jay is able to listen in. And so therefore, just to make sure that he's able to hear everybody, if you do have questions or comments, the mic on the podium is live. If you push the button.
You push the button.
If you have to turn it on.
Okay.
There'll be an indicator like, and you'll be louder. Okay, here we are, 11 a.m. on March 11th, at the pre-proposal meeting for the Green Mountain Falls, El Paso County Community Development Block Grant Accessibility for All Phase 1, Gazebo Lake and Park Improvements Project. This project was posted on BidNet on March the 1st, and will close and have the bid opening at 5 p.m. on March the 16th. We do have a couple of important dates to be mindful of. March 14th, 5 p.m. will be the deadline for questions. And those questions will be responded to as an addenda that will be posted no later than 5 p.m. on March the 15th. That being said, we have received a couple of questions that are summarized here with some draft answers. As I've come into this project a little bit late, please, if anybody has clarification to any of these questions, please let me know and we'll go ahead and make those modifications before the addenda is posted. So the first one was the budget for the playground. The estimated cost for the breakout of all the items is included in the application addendum that was posted to the Rocky Mountain e-purchasing system. This is a cost estimate of what was anticipated that each portion of the project could cost. There is probably a little bit of flexibility based on project constraints and prioritized features. It was also asked, is this just installation or are you looking for an inclusive playground product and install? And is there going to be the same footprint as the existing play pit? Answers to those questions are, the playground may need to be refigured when some new inclusive equipment is added. There are some favorite pieces that should remain. And we'd like to see it incorporate the creek and wooded area, even if it's just a pathway inviting exploration.
It might be helpful to add that this is for younger children. That might help us when it comes to figuring out the equipment. And we figure out what money we have for it. It just helps narrow it down.
Age range,
I don't know, probably like 3 to 5. That's kind of a typical range for youngers.
Yeah, they actually playground equipment is like toddler to 5, and then you can get 5 to 10, and then you can get older than that.
So, yeah.
Because some of these
You could just change the 3 to toddler.
For older kids, so.
Well, it's not that anybody can't play on it, but just kind of the idea is that different areas in our parks will be more geared towards different age groups. Like over by the pool, the equipment might be gauged towards older
Because
kiddos.
of the tennis court and the basketball and all that already.
Yeah, and it's just kind of a way to also make it more kid-friendly so that, it's not necessarily big kids on top of little kids in the same area.
The kids will find a way to play on a little kid's playground.
Yeah, I mean, we see adults, so. It's not like there's gonna be any kind of ordinance saying who can play it.
but age appropriate for 3 to 5 years old.
Yeah, or Nancy suggested changing the 3 to toddler to 5.
Okay.
It's just when you start looking at playground equipment, a lot of times it's broken down that way.
Additional considerations, the walkway is essential to accessibility for the playground and gazebo island. We will entertain creative solutions to concrete if it becomes cost prohibitive, but any concepts must be conducive to the use of manual wheelchairs, walkers, strollers, etc. Removal of the concrete. This is an item on the solicitation that needs to be corrected to communicate the removal of the 200-foot west of the lake wall and restoration to a natural landscape slope where at a future phase of the project, additional walkway could be installed pending funding and additional planning considerations. The town has secured rock and boulders that can be utilized to complete the work. The rocks are located at the parking lot across the street from the pool parking area on Green Mountain Falls Road. Is that correct?
I would say it's on Olathe. Because that's the little corner there that everything's on. Like maybe the corner of Olathe and Pass Avenue.
Have I spelled that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. That's a first.
And it's Pass Avenue.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Is it Olathe Avenue? Olathe Road?
To the road or street, I don't know.
Street.
Oh, I think I saw my house there. Did you see yours?
Oh, yeah, it's coming.
Concept.
Those are the questions that have come up so far. Do we have additional questions? Additional clarification from grant authors?
I can't think of anything to add, you know,
So
some of these came from,
I know, right? One thing I'm thinking that people will either explode over or be in agreement with is the landscaping on the, whatever side the park side is. Like some of the trees that are there, working around those, removing those, what's gonna happen, especially the little crooked tree that's in danger of falling over. So just once we're working on the outer edges and stuff. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't,
Like
this,
if
the
it's-
particular 200-foot area I don't see any danger of any trees having any.
And even with the actual
Mhm.
lake itself stuff.
Yeah, and then,
Where
well, the one,
systems are
and the leaning
solid.
tree is further down than this
Yeah.
area.
Okay, so we're just focusing on this area right now? Or is this a focus for the overall
so,
lake project?
yeah, you know, due to the constraints of the grant, you know, there's a maximum
Right,
amount we can get.
right.
So, so the priority, as I understand it, is really
Accessibility. Right.
well, accessibility to fishing,
Mhm.
but also taking care of the lake.
Mhm.
So, you know, the outlet, I don't know how many times it's had a Band-Aid put on it.
Right,
So that's a rebuild,
right,
not a Band-Aid
Right.
this time around.
right.
And so, you know, what I'm thinking of is that, you know, those things that are more of those durable changes that will be there for, you know, an extended period of time are the priorities, and the things like the walkway and the playground. You know, we'll do what we can, but
Okay.
but the lake itself is the priority.
Right,
But not moving backwards and destroying anything on the outside.
right,
Much of the work could be done to the inside of the lake,
okay.
where you're actually, once you get it cleaned up and you're
Like
actually out,
placing the boulders and all.
right, you can
that.
actually be
Okay,
working inside the
Okay.
footprint of the lake, so
Okay.
you're not running over it.
perfect.
You're not running
You
over.
understood what I was
Yeah,
asking,
absolutely, yeah.
right?
Well, because sometimes you end up having to break a bunch of eggs to make an omelet,
Right,
but if we can stay out of that altogether.
okay.
Yes, this,
And it was just a thought because,
Oh, for sure.
and
you know.
and there are gonna it's just gonna have to be done in phases because of, you know, the costs and the length of time that the lake is drained, and you know, so I think there's some good reasons not to try to do everything at once, even if we had the money.
Right.
Kind of put it out of
Right.
commission.
And I completely get that, but I'm just thinking of how people will react to that one specific area,
Sure. Well, it was,
just in case or just not. I mean, it wouldn't bother me either way. If the trees need to be removed, they need to be removed at the point that you get to that.
uh-huh,
Yeah, I don't-
But
There's nothing,
it's just a thing to bring up,
yeah,
just a suggestion.
and I think that, you know, the images, it was brought up at the last PRT meeting that having images of the project, so that people know what's coming and they can kind of anticipate it, so it's not speculation.
I know.
You know, and, you know, I think that the community will be happy to see the lake look more natural.
Mhm. Definite beautification.
And, right, so it's not, we're not.
That concrete pond.
Right. Exactly. I couldn't help thinking of that too.
I know, CNET pond.
CNET pond.
Could get Granny out there.
I'm just typing down some notes here. If anything is, different than, or needs to be worded differently than how we've discussed, please let me know.
Well, not that this needs to change anything here, but, you know, I haven't, I don't know what options we might have for an accessible walkway, but I don't think that it necessarily has to be at ADA standards. We just want it to be, people to be able to
We want it
use
to be ADA accessible though.
accessible, right?
Because at this point, what we have there now, even if we take a roller and mash down the rock pathway, people with walkers, people with
Right.
wheelchairs, they can't access it, they get stuck.
Right.
And it's just impossible, and I've seen it, literally, I've seen it. Somebody parks on that side of the lake and they're trying to walk, and it's just,
Right,
they can't push
yeah.
anything
And even
through
if,
it, or
and
even
even if
strollers
they
sometimes.
park, right, even if they park on the other side, they can't access Gazebo Island, they
Right.
can't really access the
Right.
playground.
Right, because everything just kind of
You know,
gets
and
stuck.
I don't know what kind of alternatives there might be, but, it's,
We looked that up, not at the last one meeting you were at, but
Uh-huh.
the meeting before. And Dawn, you remember that Jay looked up what qualifies as an ADA surface, and it was pretty specific. It was more like concrete, correct? Or something that's solid. It can't be anything with small pieces or anything like that. So we did look that up and get some information as far as what a ADA compliant surface.
right, and I think that's what I'm saying is different than what we necessarily have to provide. So what's ADA compliant versus what's accessible?
Right.
So I know ADA compliance is very specific, but if there's an alternative that allows for that type of traffic
Yeah.
to safely cross, I don't know that we have to do, that it has to be ADA compliant. To get to the pier, absolutely. That's definitely part of the grant. That, and the pier,
But
and
just
the
the general
pier
walkway
itself,
itself,
right,
you're talking,
right, I'm just talking
as long
about
as
the.
it's accessible.
So the piece from the handicapped parking
Mhm.
to the fishing pier that's on the hotel
Right.
side, street side,
Right,
that has to be ADA compliant.
right,
Right.
But the pathway going from parking lot to parking lot has to be ADA accessible.
that's what I'm suggesting.
What, do we know the difference?
I don't know if it's possible.
Okay, all right, okay.
But I'm just thinking,
Okay.
if, you know, however we can make that happen would be great, because it's a lot of concrete.
Yeah, yeah. It's
And
a big
I would,
expense. Yeah.
I would hate not to do it at all, just because we couldn't do it with concrete.
Right.
So if there is an alternative that's less expensive, that makes it accessible, well, that's all I'm throwing out there. It's just, if there's some alternative. But it's the fishing pier itself, and I think is the priority for the ADA compliance. So it's got the railing and, the size of it, so wheelchairs can turn around and all that stuff. And, I just think that whole wooded area has been kind of neglected and has some great potential. I think especially with sky space going on up above and the trails over there, that it'd be really good to take another look there at what we could do.
Creek Bank?
The Old Horse Trail.
Is that what it is?
It's always been kind of steep and, yeah.
It just, I don't know, it just looks like a natural place for kids to play. If it was, I don't know, we gave it some attention.
So I looked some things up, and it looks like it's ADA compliant versus handicap accessible.
Okay,
It looks like
That's
that's.
the
that's the terminology.
Yeah, the trick with the pathway surface is, obviously concrete would be good year round.
Mm-hmm.
This time of year and stuff, even if you have an aggregate there, it's gonna get gushy.
Right.
And that would require maintenance as well.
Yeah,
I'm just thinking of like,
yeah, no,
'cause
and
it'll get, you know, the mud makes it squish out and you end up with a rough surface.
uh-huh.
It would require some grading and rolling.
And that makes sense. If, you know, even if it was just like a stopgap, you know, so, you know, eventually we would make it concrete, but if we could have something that was better than what we have.
So here's the thing here, it says ADA compliant units meet all ADA requirements, primarily that an individual in a wheelchair can make a 360-degree turn inside the unit. Handicapped accessible units can be used by individuals with disabilities. The only difference is that a person in a wheelchair cannot make a 360-degree turn per ADA requirements.
Okay.
It's on the internet, so it must be true.
Will the selected contractor need to apply for, or have any building permits for this project?
Specifically for ADA.
For,
Well, there's nothing going up. Usually when you're doing flat work, you don't need any permits.
okay,
And because there's no structure overhead, that's when they start getting into checking footers and all that stuff. But literally you're pouring it on the ground, so there's no,
okay.
if it fails, it doesn't hurt anybody and it doesn't cause any buildings to fall down or anything like that. So.
What about the pier construction?
Well, depending on how, again, if it's suspended over grade, then it would become need permitting, because it would be similar to a deck where you'd have to have piers and floor trusses and the rest of it. The way, I mean, this years ago, whenever the first ADA fishing pier thing went up was like 3 years ago. I'm trying to remember what it was, but the idea would be to have it be like a pedestal. And you can actually scoot that pedestal out of the water a little bit, and then you can actually cantilever the end of it a little bit, but it would still be shorter than 4 feet, which are below the engineering requirements at that point. So you're basically building a sidewalk square that you can kind of shove out into the lake. It would be further out than the shoreline, a little bit, not a lot. That was the original idea of that. And then basically that would be.
Or something?
I'm not even that far.
And that would be big enough to have a wheelchair turnaround.
It was 12 by 9. I think. It's on
The specs were on
I'm trying to remember what it was.
yeah.
But basically the idea would be, you basically have a rectangular bump out, but that bump out would go vertically down, so you don't have any structure that's suspended over grade. Yeah. And it's on the,
Oh, I see it, okay.
and then that would obviously do your 360 turnaround thing, but, and then the railing would be along the edge of that so that you wouldn't have one falling in the water. But the lake's actually shallow enough over there, you can get away with staying below the 4-foot mark. And again, that's sort of a building permit kind of thing. Once you hit the 4 feet, engineering is required, et cetera, et cetera. And then, but yeah. So when you think, pier, like what Don, when you showed me that, those pictures you showed me with the pier that extends far out into the water, then you're going to have engineering and permitting stuff at that point. Just by the nature of the structure itself. Because like I said, it basically just becomes a deck on a house.
So basically from the parking lot in the brown area there, all of that has to be ADA compliant. And it has to be wide enough so that they can do a wheelie if they want to do a wheelie. You know.
Right. Yeah,
do a donny in
you
there.
can't exceed, I think you can't, 3% grade, I can't remember what the grade is, but it's pretty flat anyway, obviously. It's
Yeah.
water.
Yeah.
So you have to watch out for grade, you have to watch out for surface smoothness, and you have to watch out for width, when I think 4 feet is the width that they require there.
Okay.
And then obviously any handrails where you have exposure to falling. And those handrails also have height and structural requirements per the ADA, but they're not hard to, I mean, it's all you do is build it to what they say in the book.
Yeah.
It's 42 inches or whatever the height is on that, so that's pretty. that was
Well,
pretty
and we do, this is like probably way outside of the box, but we do have a family here in town that has, children that use wheelchairs. And Daniel scoots around all the time in his electric wheelchair, so he may be somebody to help
Yeah, he's on
Make
the
sure.
Pastor Trail.
right at the end there, at
Yeah.
the very end. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
So,
yeah,
Yeah.
I think the power chairs get around better than manuals,
Yeah.
just, the wheel.
yeah,
They've got a phenomenal turn radius on them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that too.
So like an actual road-based decomposed granite, I mean, that's what we put on the roads here, right? It gets hard to compact it, and obviously it does take some maintenance, but you could do a surface similar to that where the ground is, and that's certainly rollable. I mean,
yeah,
we all know what it's like. It's hard.
Right.
It gets hard,
right.
but we also know that when it gets muddy, it doesn't require that maintenance. So it's kind of
Mhm.
you save a little money short term, you're not spending money on concrete, but long term, you're going to spend the money on putting it back and making it flat again. I get it.
Well,
I
it'd be
think
great if we
overall-
could do it concrete.
It would be great, but it's the overall aesthetic.
Well, and we're also, so I think too, you have 480 feet from pantry to the 7,800 side.
Mhm.
The ADA is going to take up some, and we could actually maybe see if it's possible to stretch the ADA a little bit. And then we're eliminating actual costs, because right now, I was thinking about that too, you're doubling up probably 50 feet of it or something, and that ends up being money.
Okay, right.
There might be some way to do some
Yeah.
overlap there to save some money.
Anyway, we can stretch it tougher.
Yeah,
And still,
yeah, 480, so, I mean, even if you got rid of some percentage of that, you start dropping the price. Or at least the price would be absorbed
mhm.
as part of another. You get a 2-for-1 on that first 30, 40 feet. And then maybe, the thing with the park is that it's flat. So right now, the water sits on the pathway. But if you go on the pantry side, that actually, once you hit the playground, it actually starts sloping up a little bit towards the parking lot,
Mhm.
which has some natural drainage. Maybe look at some of the areas that don't have the best drainage. Because once you hit it would be, it seems to me that between the actual playground and the pantry area stays pretty hard most of the time. If we could get that might save another 100 feet. I'm just trying to think of ways that.
Yeah, and I
Get
think
you where you need to
that's what we're doing here, is figuring out where can we.
So 100, I mean, if 100, if you got rid of 150 feet of the 480, that's 30%. All of a sudden, that's,
Yeah.
30% of the 15 is 10 instead of, those numbers end up being a little more reasonable. And then later on, maybe you connect the playground to the pantry or something. But it seems to me that section stays pretty dry because it does have some slope to it, where the actual park walkway stays pretty muddy because it's flat. Yeah, and that whole area is pretty.
And the costs, I know, changed a lot in the last few years.
Yeah, I think some of these things are 3 years old probably.
So we're talking rise in material costs.
That's what I'm,
Yeah,
I think that's essentially why we're thinking, well, how can we?
Yeah.
What adjustments can we make?
Yeah.
And still fulfill the grant?
Fiduciaries for the funds, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure that, the grantors are well aware that the price of everything has gone up,
Dollar doesn't require.
right?
Or maybe that's where, if you come at somebody saying, hey, we're looking for donations for, 20 grand to do a sidewalk, well, if the grant can get us 60% of the way there, maybe say,
Try to do a
talk,
match.
say, hey, yeah, or, hey, we're looking for $4,500 or 5,000 to finish this last.
Is this a match grant?
No. No.
Okay, okay,
No.
okay. I just
Yeah, no,
thought of that while we were just talking just now, so.
But I don't think there's anything.
There's no requirement.
Piggyback.
Requirement for anything, or-
Or
Could we
supplementing.
do some in-kind?
I think
to
that
count
there,
toward it,
I
or-
think that, yeah, I do think that, I don't know that, certainly I think that our public works crew would be available to do certain things to help minimize some of the labor costs. So I think that
But like we've got the rocks already.
right, that's an opportunity for some cost savings, depending on what it ends up being, right? But if it ends up being, some minimal dirt work and it's not interfering with other things other priorities that they have going on. And then I do think that we have a opportunity to reallocate some funding that was earmarked for the repair of the restrooms there at that park, just because it doesn't look like true repair of that facility is feasible.
Right.
Just because of the age of it, the company that created it is no longer in business, no longer makes parts. And it can't be retrofitted for something else. So I anticipate that we will have.
The toilets are obsolete now.
Well, I think that we have a plan moving forward to get them through this year and get us into next year, where either we can think about replacing them completely or alleviating some of the use on them through the installation of alternate facilities. They're just not designed for the amount of traffic that they get now as compared to when they were installed, and we're fine.
Yeah, I know donations aren't something that we want to count on, and I'm kind of going off on a tangent now, but I think community involvement would be a really positive thing.
Absolutely.
Well, a lot of this is literal ditch digging. And, labor costs are expensive if there's a volunteer thing. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I think would be helpful.
Yeah.
As we're cleaning up, a lot of that stuff is certainly within the capability of a volunteer group.
Great.
And I'd like to throw a
Great.
name out there for somebody who would, I know, be more than willing to do some volunteer stuff, especially dirt work. K.O. Armentrout.
I'm sorry, who?
K.O. Armentrout. That's somebody that we should contact. Do you know?
No,
Do you know him? So, yeah, I mean, Armentrouts were one of the original families here. K.O. grew up here. And I know in the past, he's told me, let me know if you guys need something. So it's just a suggestion for dirt work for somebody to maybe be able to help us some time
and obviously,
something.
how to too.
Mhm.
I know
Yeah.
Kurt pretty well.
Kurt? Yeah.
Yeah, I talk with them, I take care of them and he takes Washington.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of local, like, we grew up here.
Mhm.
We want to help. There's a lot of people like that.
I think it could really be an opportunity for community building, whether it's kids donating a nickel or a dime, or, people donating sweat.
Yeah.
It's whatever.
Plus you get to say you made that.
I just think people would really like that, to feel like they really had a sense of ownership, because I think a lot of, most things are really out of our hands.
Well, and there's a new cycle now and a new set of families with younger people. Because look at all the little families on the bricks that are down at the park right now. Maybe we could buy a brick to help donate something.
Yeah.
So,
I don't think it's a huge one, but like I said, I'm sorry, it's a bit of a tangent.
No, I included the community has volunteer resources that can be utilized to help alleviate some labor costs. Volunteer needs should be communicated within the proposal. I'm going to write volunteer opportunities.
Yeah. I know, I like participating in Creek Week when I can, but it almost feels like it's not enough. Like I want to do, where's the next one? Where's the next project? They're too
It doesn't
far,
seem like there's
few
enough
and far
time to get
between.
a bunch of stuff done, so.
I think it also provides a great opportunity for the board, should they choose to do, a ribbon cutting, a grand opening at this, to do some volunteer recognition also. Potluck, barbecue.
Yeah.
And maybe there's some, moose or pantry gift certificates for breakfast or pizza or
Yeah,
some kind of.
donation of some fishing supplies, fishing contest. All right, Mr. Walker,
Yes, ma'am.
do you have anything to add, questions?
That's a big park. I'd recommend that we just focus in on what we think $150,000 can do for the park and start delineating some project, whether it be the pier, the sidewalk, or the discharge, and then work from there. And if there's anything left over, then I'm sure we can find a place to spend it.
Any additional comments, questions from the Dixons?
I'm just trying to observe and learn.
Okay. Anything from our town planner, clerk?
Thank you.
I think with that, we will go ahead and close. Any additional questions can be submitted up until that March 14th deadline via the Rocky Mountain e-purchasing system, which has been really great to work with. And we will do a public bid opening on March the 16th at 5 p.m.
I'm excited. I get more enthusiastic every time we talk.
Oh, it's really fun. It's great.
Well, this has been a long time coming, so
Yeah.
it's gonna be really nice to get some work done.
Take care of that week.
Get us positioned for phase 2.
I think it's our mayor's birthday.
It
It
is.
is.
Should we call her?
Sure.
We're all.